Client brief, 8 members. Number of bedrooms, 4. Special recommendation for the kitchen, open kitchen. I want to talk about aesthetics versus functionality. So, why one without the other miserably fails in any project, be it for an architect or interior designer? I want to explain why it is so important to take both aesthetics and the functionality hand in hand if you really want the house to age well, any residence to age well. I would just like to cite certain examples so that you understand better. Instead of quoting some fancy words from the books, I would like to quote certain examples. So, my first example would be, suppose I'm designing a home for 8 people, wherein the elders, the kids, and a middle aged couple is there, and they want a open space planning for the kitchen. And it's a North Indian traditional household. Imagine the amount of spices, the amount of utensils, the amount of sounds that will be produced in that kitchen. So I have faced this issue a lot of times, but also seen that, people at the initial stage are very, very adamant and rigid that they want their kitchen to be a certain way. They want it very interactive and they want the whole space to flow as one. If I consider the Japanese culture, the kind of food they eat, talking about teppanyaki, so the kind of food, I mean, if it's a processed or a canned food, and you just have to heat it, grill it, it works out. In our Indian cooking, where we have so many usage of oil, the usage of spices, a lot of tarkas are done. There's a lot of fragrance in the kitchen, which of course is really good, but we don't want that entire thing to be traveling in our living room when we are entertaining people. So what I faced in that particular example was that, initially they did not agree to having a closed sort of kitchen. And when they started living 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, they started facing issues. One was, of course, the fragrance, the sound of the vessels, everything, the disturbances. Another was there was no privacy. So if the family is sitting together for a meal, and the cooks and the chefs and the helpers, everybody's listening to their conversations, so at the end they had to opt for something like a jugaad, which was that they created partition walls using the gypsum and created it in a way that it was separate room and not an open kitchen. So in examples like these, I knew that the house or the home would not age well. And that's what happened at the end. Another very interesting example that's about why aesthetics and functionality also is very important, not only in a home, but also the kind of town or a city you're operating from. For example, I am an interior designer from northern India, Delhi, and I have got the opportunity to do a villa in Goa. My client brief is expensive, luxury, and very interesting chic elements. And I try to make it that way. And the use of materials is a lot of metal, leather, and faux leather. So, what is going to happen? What do you think will be the end result in a place which is tropical, which has a lot of humidity throughout the year? What do you think will happen? The leather is actually going to crack up. There's going to be a lot of degradation. There's going to be a lot of mold that will happen on the leather. And at the end, they will have to replace the piece, which was, of course, which costed a very huge amount to them initially. So while we design in a place like Goa or any other place, probably Kerala, we don't choose materials like leather. We go for fabrics which are textured, linen. We can go for boucle as well. And, things that are more breathable. Of course, genuine leather is also breathable. But I still feel that if you take more of fabrics and avoid using leather or faux leather, it's always recommended because space will breathe. Also, I read in an article that, even the kids who go to school told not to wear shoes that are faux leather or leather. And a lot of people prefer wearing canvas shoes or open-ended slippers or shoes. The reason's same. They want that sort of breathable environment in their foot. They want to wear breathable clothes. They don't wear, you will never see somebody wearing a leather jacket, mostly in Goa throughout the year, probably just during a couple of days in December, but otherwise not. You will always see them wearing very breathable organic fabrics. The reason is very simple. Our skin would react to it, and it'll not be good enough for the skin if we use a lot of leather. Linens, soft textures, khadi, those are the kind of fabrics which are recommended. So these are two examples which I wanted to quote. What happens when you mix aesthetics and functionality in a way that functionality, of course, is visible, but aesthetics act as a showstopper? So, a small example I did for a client recently. They had a paneling outside their room. So, the client preferred some sort of fruit and some sort of protein shake the moment he got up. And the staff was not allowed to step in the room while the person is still sleeping, but there was a recommended time for that person. So, we had to create a hidden table in that paneling, wherein the table quietly opens up with a very interesting fitting from a renowned brand. And then the fruit and the protein shake was placed there so that when the client gets up and opens his room, he has his meal already ready on the table. And once used, the table can be folded back, it acts as a paneling, and nobody gets to know. I mean, if you still step into that home, you will not know that there is a hidden table in that paneling. So, this is how beautifully one can achieve a seamless design and also fulfill the needs and desires of your client. One last example I would like to quote of functionality aesthetics going hand in hand is that we had a client who was not very fond of watching TV, binge watching, because they both were working, had chaotic lives. So they wanted to pick their schedules and decide when they really want to watch TV. Television screens, no matter, we have evolved from LCD to LED and the slimmest of screens, but we all know as designers that these huge humongous instruments, they don't look very appealing in the interiors. So we just thought, why not just conceal them? And it can be opened up according to the needs and the conveniences of the client. So for every room, we opted for different sort of fittings, which were custom created according to the paneling and the wall treatments. And whenever the client wished to watch TV or they wanted to open it, they could easily open it and use the feature and close it back, and it was sorted. So the entire room looked extremely seamless, extremely subtle, without any visibility of huge gadgets being on the floor. So, summing it up, it's also a little lesson for the designers and also for the clients that please keep in mind the functionality and the aesthetic part while you're designing a home. And also, clients, that when you have these interesting desires, some fantasies, you need to be very sure that are you going to live with it for the next 5 to 6 years or 10 years. That's it for now. Thank you so much.